Hey guys, welcome to lesson 2.2. We're going to be talking today about inequalities that are compound. So these get a little bit tricky. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, a compound inequality is two separate inequalities that are joined together by either an and or an or. The ands are a little bit more tricky, so I want to start with an or. So the graph of a compound inequality with or is called the union of the graphs. And so a lot of times with the ors, you will see an or here. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to treat these as two separate inequalities and solve for each one. So let's go ahead and do this. So notice I subtracted the 8 from both sides so I could get rid of that 8 over there. And I'm left with negative x is less than negative 3. When you divide by a negative, we're going to flip that sign. So when I get that x by itself, because I'm dividing by -1, I'm going to flip that sign so it looks like that. Okay, let's do the other one. So I'm going to subtract 5, and I get 3x is less than or equal to -4. Notice this time I'm not dividing by a negative, so I do not flip the sign. So it's going to look like this. Our answer will be connected with the or that we started out with. So this whole thing is our answer. Okay, so when we go to graph this, think about on a number line. So which one of these is going to come first? Well, this one is smaller because it's negative. So I'm just going to put that -4/3 first, and then I'm going to put the 3 second. So I'm going to graph these both on the same number line, but really they're two individual ones. So let's see what happens. So x is less than or equal to -4/3. So that means I'm going to have a closed dot on 4/3, and I'm going to have an arrow going to the left. Over here, notice there's no line underneath this. So I'm going to have an open dot, and notice it points in the direction. And so I'm going to have an arrow going to the right. So I want you to practice this. This one is just like the one we just did. So go ahead and try that. Push pause and see if you can get the correct answer. Okay, so I got x is less than or equal to 9. So that's smaller. So I'm going to put that there. And x is greater than or equal to 12. Notice they're both closed dots. And so the 9 is pointing in that direction, and the x is greater than or equal to 12 is going in that direction. Okay, let's go up to ands now. So ands are called the intersection of the graph. And sometimes you'll see the word and, just like the ors, but a lot of times they're kind of, I call them sandwich in together, because it's going to look like this. So our goal is to get this middle x by itself. So think about this. Let's pretend that this wasn't even here. If I had that, you would tell me that the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 4, and that's what we're going to do. But we're going to do it here, here, and here. We're going to subtract 4 to all 3 places. And so I end up getting -15 is less than or equal to -5x is less than 20. Okay, now I'm going to continue to get the x by itself. So I'm going to divide by -5. Don't forget, we're dividing by a negative, so we have to flip the sign. So let's look at this. So I have this. That's going to be a +3, and then is greater than or equal to, let's see, these cancel. So I get x is greater than -4. But this is wonky because look, we've got like a bigger number before a smaller number, and that's going to be really hard to graph. So guys, this is not standard 4. we're going to have to put it so the smallest number goes first, and then we're going to have an X in the middle, and then we have the biggest number last. So notice the way the sign is between the X and the 3, it's going to be like that. Okay, and the sign between the X and the -4, it's going to look like that. So this is the correct way to write the inequality. And so when I go to graph it, that's easier to set up because I have the least number, the smallest number on the left and the biggest number on the right. Okay, this can also be written as an and. So there's two different inequalities going on, whichever one you want to look at, either here or here, it doesn't matter. So I want to point out one. So if I have this, X is less than or equal to 3, that's one. And then we have another one here. It's harder to see on this side. I want to show it to you right here before we switched it. Right there. Do you see that? X is greater than -4. So what's happening is it's bigger than -4, but it's less than or equal to 3. So it's everything in between. That's why I said I think about it as a sandwich, because those answers are sandwiched in between the smallest number and the biggest number. So for instance, I could have like -3 be a solution, or -2, or -1, or 0, or 1, or 2. Even 3 would work. All of these numbers are in between -4 and 3. Okay, so let's go down here, and I want you to try this one on your own and see how you do. Okay, so I did my math. I ended up with this, but I'm backwards because I had to flip the sign. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'll do it in another color as -2 is less than X is less than -1. So that's going to help me draw my number line. So let's see, I have an open dot on -2 and an open dot on -1, and it's sandwiched in between those two numbers. Okay, let's go and try this one here. So for this one, for this side of the notes, we're gonna talk about graphing. So we're gonna just switch gears. We're pivoting to something totally different. I think this might be a little bit easier because we had a lot of this in Unit 1. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna, for right now, pretend that this isn't here. Just pretend that it's an equal sign. So if I said, I want you to graph this, how would you do this? Well, from Unit 1, we talked about subtracting that 6x over and putting it into y equals mx plus b form. So that's what we're doing so we could graph it. So I'm left with -2y is, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back in, -6x plus 8. Now I'm going to divide by -2. So really the only thing new so far, and we've already learned this, is we're dividing by a negative, so we're going to flip the sign. So my answer, I'm going to put it right here, is y is greater than or equal to 3x minus 4. Okay, so we're going to treat this as just like graphing a line. But if we have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we're going to have a solid line. If there is no equal to, so it looks like that, we're going to have a dotted line. So that's something that you need to remember. Also, something else that you need to remember is that you have to shade either one side or the other. So we're going to talk about how to do that in a second. So notice that this one has a line underneath it. So I'm just going to treat this as a regular graph. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, put my point, and then think about this, our slope. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. I could go the other direction, 1, 2, 3, over 1. So I have this line, and it's going to be solid because there's a line underneath it, underneath the inequality. Okay, now think about this. So all of these, if you can kind of train your brain to see, these are all above the line because my y is bigger. This is all below the line because the y is smaller. So if it's greater than or equal to, or just greater than, we're going to shade above the line. And if it's less than or equal to, and again, you don't need that, you're going to shade below the line. So look at this. So we have greater than or equal to, so we're going to shade in this direction. So it looks like that. Okay. Go ahead and try these three and see if you can do them. Okay, I grabbed the line, but I have not shaded them yet because I wanted to talk to you about each one. Okay, on number one, notice that I have a dotted line and it's greater than. So I'm going to shade above the line. So this is all above the line. This is all below the line. So I'm going to shade in this direction. So it looks like that. This above below will not work with any other form besides slope intercept form. So notice that I have a solid line here because of that line underneath, and it's less than, so this is all greater than, and this would be less than. This is going to be below the line. So I'm going to shade in this direction. Okay, for this one, think about this. Your x values are bigger than -4. So here, all my x values are bigger than -4. So that means I'm going to shade in this direction. And that is it, guys. Oh, and number 7, you'll see this in the folder. I made a mistake. So you're going to have to change number 7 on your 2.2 worksheet. If you were here on Friday, we talked about it, but if you're not here, I just want to make sure you knew that. Okay, thanks a lot.